Even my dog heard it, posted in the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit by Cisco Kid 60. Often I hear my back door close, but no one else is in the house. We had to get a new outside door installed on our back door because a strong wind caught and busted the glass. And I just didn't like the door. I had the guy that installed it put 2 tension rods on it, one at the top and one at the bottom, so it would close tightly. It actually would be a bit dangerous if we had a small kid because it closes so fast. Often I hear the door open. Well, actually I hear it close because it closes so hard that it's pretty loud. I would have thought I was just imagining it, but the dog also heard it and would tear through the house barking like crazy, at nothing. My husband didn't believe me until one evening he heard it and was sure some stranger was in the house. The dog, like usual, ran through the house barking. My husband was so convinced that he got his baseball bat and searched the house, while I kept watching TV and telling him that he wouldn't find anything. My dog passed away last fall, and I rescued another one in February. I've only heard the door once since we got her, and she just lifted her head, looked at me, and went back to sleep. A guard dog, she is not. I just heard my older self's voice posted in the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit by Sochi1996. Another weird experience I had as a kid happened when I was 5 at the time, still living in my old house. My house was set up so that when you enter through the front door you can walk straight in the kitchen. On the right is the living room, and on the left is the stairway to our second floor. Just next to the stairway is the steps leading down to the basement living room. For some odd reason, this day, I felt drawn to go downstairs into the basement living room and sit in there, in complete darkness, listening to the sound of the radiator blowing. I decided to sit down, for no apparent reason, in front of the radiator and sit there in total blackness. The only other person in my house at the time was my mom, who was lying upstairs in bed watching TV. I sat in that room for a good 5 minutes when all of a sudden I hear a voice whisper. I did not hesitate to bolt up the stairs and into the main living room. I didn't tell everyone about what I heard and still have not told anyone 15 years later. Thinking back more on the incident recently, I've noticed more and more that the voice 15 years ago was nearly identical to mine, in terms of pitch and tone. I tried replicating the whisper with my own voice, and it sounded exactly the same in my head. So did I just hear my future self speak to me? Shard of pure light falling from the ceiling, posted in the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit by Skyskater. Hey, obligatory intro everyone skips over. Long-time lurker, first-time poster here, so forgive me if any of this is wrong. I'm not super familiar with Reddit or whatever. But hey, I'm glad there's finally a place I can share this weird stuff that happens to me, as I've had a fair few glitches in my 22 years of life. Nothing major or life-changing like some of the creepy stuff I've read on here. Just those small weird things that make you think, what? But I think they're all worth recording. So I'll start with my most recent one, which happened just yesterday. It was around mid-afternoon and I was chilling on my bed, waiting for a phone call, watching YouTube or listening to music or whatever. When out of the corner of my eye I saw this flash of light from the middle of the room where my ceiling is. I turned and looked to see this shard of what I can only describe as pure light, falling from the ceiling to the ground, about half an inch. But not like a ball of light, it was shaped more like a shard of glass. Bright, shining white gold in color, like the brightest light you can imagine. At first, I thought this could be a flake of white paint dropping from the ceiling, and it reflected the bright sun shining in the window. I live in the attic of an old house, and I don't know when the ceiling was last painted. It's all cracked around the light fitting, but to be honest, I think it fell too fast for that. I'd guess around half a second. But my sense of time isn't super accurate. It was slow enough for me to turn and see it falling, so not like a flash, but still pretty fast. I also checked the floor to see if anything landed there, but nothing. I find it extra weird that it fell out of the light fitting. Maybe a tiny piece of light escaped its glass confinement. I've looked into this online and it looks like other people have had similar experiences but no theories as to what it is. Just another weird thing, I guess. Sorry if this was mundane or whatever, I have more exciting ones, but I just thought I'd post this because it literally happened yesterday. Thanks for reading. Sounds from Nowhere, posted in the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit by the Hot Dog Maker. So some years ago, my family and I lived in a sleepy town in central Texas. We had recently had to move unexpectedly, and so we had little funds put back. This led us having to move into a duplex housing area on the more ghetto side of town. After living there for a few weeks, we began to notice some strange noise from time to time. It usually came after dark, though I can remember a time or two it happened early in the morning. The sound was a sort of throbbing jet engine hovering noise. It would start out small and distant, but over several minutes, grow very loud. It almost always lasted 10 to 15 minutes and then would simply vanish. It would become so loud our windows would rattle and you could feel the bass vibration in your chest. We lived near, about 3 miles, from the local Air Force base, but the sound of jets or cargo planes flying over was common, and not nearly as loud or persistent as this noise. We would go outside, and the noise seemed to encompass everything. My whole family heard it, as well as our neighbors. We noticed that for usually 15 minutes, before and after, the local fauna would go silent. It happened multiple times over the course of the 3 years we lived there, and even after lengthy investigation and talking to locals, no one could explain it. Has anyone experienced anything similar? I swear I witnessed a glitch today. Posted in the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit by Pancake Puncher. So a few days ago I was reading about the concept or theory that when you shift realities, time corrects itself. I can't for the life of me remember what it was called, but I don't know if it is because of this I became more aware of what happened today, or it was just a psychological thing. I'm a technician for a cable industry, and I'm often finding myself navigating confusing buildings, like large businesses, nursing homes, etc. Today I was in, by far, one of the largest senior living homes I've ever been in. All I remember is following a security guard to the hospital wing, which involved going down a connecting bridge or hallway between the buildings. I was on the first floor. He told me to ride the elevator to 2, turn left, and get directions to the room I needed. So I did. On my way out, I got a bit lost, and while I was on the phone to my supervisor, I was just wandering and talking. I stopped at an elevator that wasn't the one I rode up, and figured if I just ride it down to the first floor, I would find someone who could help me out. While waiting on the elevator, I stared out the window and just kind of made observations. I'm an observant person. I got on the elevator, and so did 2 employees working there. Because I was on the phone, I didn't bother talking or hitting the elevator button. I got off the phone and noticed they were going to the G level, which was clearly staff only. So I decided I'd just go back to the 2nd floor because I didn't want to get more lost. I rode the elevator back to the 2nd, stopped off, and glanced out the window. I turned to my left and walked through the double doors. And there I was, standing in the bridge or hallway divided between the 2 buildings. It made no sense, because I was on the 1st floor when I rode to the 2nd, and the view from the window was exactly the same as when I was on the 2nd, waiting for the elevator. It was truly the greatest thing ever. What do you guys all think? A little weird, but not too baffling, posted in the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit by Alosama. When I was young, I'd fall asleep in the bed with my younger sister sometimes. There would be times when my sister was laying to the right of me asleep and I'd be watching TV. Usually, when I fall asleep, I'm knocked out for a few hours. I never daze off and wake up over and over. Plus, I was super young, so drugs obviously weren't relevant. But sometimes I'd be watching TV with my sister beside me, and then all of a sudden I would talk to her and she wouldn't be there. I would look to my right and I would see bundles of sheets and an empty pillow, as if she'd gotten up and walked out of the room. She never walked past the TV, I never heard or saw the door open, and I definitely didn't fall asleep. She would then walk back into the room, and I would definitely notice. Strange. Monsters Incorporated, the movie. Posted in the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit by John2001. So this is my most prevalent glitch in memory, and it happened when I was young, 10 years old, and something my dad says always stumped him. My dad asked me if I wanted to go to the movie theaters to see Monsters Incorporated. I replied with, "Why would we go see it again?" And he said, "We haven't seen it, just came out in theaters. Today." I told him I thought we saw it last week, and he said we haven't seen a movie in months. So I figured I was mistaken, thinking of someone else, or it was a dream or something, and agreed to go wait in the long opening lines of the movies back then. When the movie starts, within the first 5 minutes I looked at my dad and was like, "We've seen this," and I've told him what would happen next. Then, when it happened, I was like, "See, Dad?" And he said I was just probably remembering the trailers from TV and to keep watching the movie. I told him I wasn't and proceeded to tell him the names of the characters coming up and a synopsis of the entire movie, and he just said, "We'll see." Then, after the movie on the ride home, my dad asked me how I knew everything about the movie and what would happen to the above characters. And I told him clear as day because we saw it last week, and he just kept explaining we had not, and how the movie had just been released that day, so it's not possible. Something we never really figured out, and I never understood either, but I can't remember anything else happening quite like this in my life. The ultimate deja vu on steroids, I guess? We both remember it, posted in the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit by Callie Courier. This is only a small thing, but it creeped me out at the time. I was at this chain Mexican restaurant and ordering my meal, when the cashier guy put the small soda cup I asked for on the counter between us. I handed him my card, got my receipt, all that good stuff, but when I started to walk away, I noticed the soda cup wasn't there. I asked him to give me a cup, and he said he already did. He ended up giving me another one, but we were still really spooked because we both remembered it clearly. Predictive Behavior, posted in the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit by Mr. J. I used to have a thing that happened a lot in high school. When I would come home, I'd go right to my room and turn on my radio, listen to music for a bit, before I could mentally prepare myself to get into the immense amount of homework I always had. On occasion, I'd have a song in my head, walk home, or once I got into the house and when I turned the radio on, the same song I was thinking would be on. It happened more and more frequently, and eventually, it'd get to where I turned on the radio, and the song would be almost at the same place in the playthrough as it was in my head. Only one time, it was exactly where I thought it would be. It doesn't happen anymore, but at the time I thought it was incredibly cool.